In this episode of Kids Podcast, I am honored to share wisdom with you about leading kids in your church and in your home. Dealing with kids is hard work, and I'm praying that we add some tools to your tool belt today. So let's dive into today's topic. In this episode of Kids Podcast, we're talking about smart work. This is a 3-part series on working with kids from behind a desk. And this is part 3. In the first episode, we talked about the good old-fashioned, hard-to-get, hard truths. The hard truths of working in ministry, the hard truths of working behind the desk, the hard truths that we need to grasp. In episode 2, we talked about hard work, but in this episode, we are talking about smart work. The stuff that's in the brain that makes it go a little bit faster, a little bit quicker, a little bit better. A bunch of Kanye-type words: harder, stronger, faster, better, boom. And we're digging in. We're wrapping this series up. As a reminder, this series stemmed from this idea that, hey, many of us that work with kids, we're all-stars with kids. We do great with kids. We engage kids with ease. It's fun to play with kids. It's fun to teach kids. It's fun to invest in kids. We do well with kids. But organizing and administrating and working in the office, not so hot, not so good. We don't like it. No good, dirty, rotten stuff, right? So this 3-part series is going to help some of us so that we are no longer in the hot water. We're not struggling, but most importantly, we can be more effective and efficient at reaching kids, whether we're parents, coaches, teachers, or even kids pastors. Because like it or not, the more efficient and effective you are with your leadership capacity, the more effective and efficient you'll be at leading kids into an overflowing life with Jesus. So let's dive into this episode on smart work. Smart work. All right, so to think of the idea of smart work, I remember and I reflect on my years of working in the summer at a campground. And there was this idea that we had to take the mulch that was from that mulch pile, make a mound over there so we can create a bed that looked pretty for curb appeal. And I had to go through this idea of learning the difference between hard work and smart work. And hard work was me grabbing a shovel, putting it into a wheelbarrow, and then pushing that mulch across the yard, and then dumping it and spreading it and going through that whole process. Smart work was realizing that there's a different, better way to do that. That there is a way to be efficient with my time. There's a way to be smart with my time. There was a way to, save time. So I learned that if I busted out all my energy first thing in the morning when it was cooler, I wasn't sweating in the hot heat of the midday. And I learned that if I brought the Bobcat tractor out and dumped everything into the bed truck, not just the truck that we drive around on roads, but the big truck at the 550, the 850. I don't even know if that's even a thing, but the big truck. And then we backed it up, and then we used the hydraulic lift to dump all the mulch on the ground, and then we were able to spread it. That's smart work. And this idea of smart work can be used in organizational leadership from behind a desk. And so I have 5 big points here that we can learn from, that we can apply so that we can up our game while working with kids from behind a desk. So let's dive into these 5 right here. And the first one is called speed of leadership. Speed of leadership. You might have heard me talk about speed of leadership in other episodes. I may have referred to as speed of play in soccer, but here is speed of leadership. Think of it this way. It's not doing a job faster. It's doing it faster because I already know what to do. And let me explain. The first time I was asked to do a missions trip to Alaska, I was not sure what to do, and so I asked for help. I called a friend, and they helped me. And yeah, so that was really cool. And man, I loved Alaska so much. I wanted to go back a second time. So I was like, I'm gonna try to do this without my friend. So I went online. I had a bunch of questions. I looked up Spirit Airline, Delta Airline, American Airline, Alaska Airline, and then realized that Google Flights shows me all those airlines all at once. Found the price, and then I learned that we needed to land in Anchorage, and then get on a different flight to a place called Grant Aviation, which is not connected to Google Flights or whatever, and that price was different. Oh, and the price, it was one way was double the price if you went there and back. But once we landed there, I needed a way to get from the airport to our next destination, and so we had to quad ride from the airport to our next destination, and then we needed to get to the campground, which was over beyond the Yukon River. So there was this boat that we had to find, owned by someone named Phil, and are you following? There's just a lot of steps that go into this. But if you ask me today, I know exactly what needs to be done because I've done it 2-3 times now. Speed of leadership. I know that I need to get to either Alaska Airlines or Delta Airlines, and I'm going to look through Google Flights for the best flights, and I'm going to look exactly 6 months ahead to get my best time, my best schedules, and I'm going to not purchase 10 tickets all at once because that's a different price than purchasing less than 10, and I know that I'm not going to bring 2 suitcases that are over 49 pounds because that's a whole different price. And I know that when I land there, I have to jump on a new flight, a smaller flight to get to Bethel. And when I get to Bethel, I need to get on Grant Aviation to go from there to Umanak. And I know that when I get there, I need to contact my missionary friend to say, hey, we're ready for pickup, because even though the time says to be here, it may not be there. And either way, it only takes them 2 seconds to jump on their quad to pick us all up. And then from there, we get on a boat where missionary Phil takes us on the Yukon, and we travel exactly 45 minutes through the Yukon River to get to our location. And I know that the place I'm sleeping is far on the left, and I know all those things because speed of leadership. I'm not doing it faster. I'm doing the same thing, just thinking about it faster because I already know what to do. Speed of leadership is kind of like when you're driving to work. That first time you drove to work, I make a left here and right there. Now you don't even think about where you're turning. You just do it while doing something else in your brain. Speed of leadership. And as you gain experience through your time with kids and kids ministry or kids whatever, you're learning things, you're doing things, and you're figuring out that you're administrative over here, you're coordinating over there, and there's these certain things on the calendar, and you no longer need to follow a quote-unquote checklist to get it done. Your speed of leadership needs to grow, so you get her done. One example that we can apply here is that it used to take me a 40-hour work week to get my entire week's worth of work completed. Now, because I've been doing it long enough, I can do it in a day. My entire 40-hour work week I can do in one day. So then what do I do with the other 30 hours? Well, I can do whatever I want. Literally do whatever I want. I can do something that I've been dreaming about doing, like making my own puppets, like redesigning the stage, like fixing that one wall that the kids make a hole in, like take someone fishing that's a dad and talk to them about ministry and maybe recruit them into being a helper for our Wednesday night program. I can do whatever I want. I can do that list rather than my requirement list. So, number 1, speed of leadership. As you do things, remember it, tweak it, and become efficient and effective at it so that you can move on encouraged. All right, let's go to number 2. The second thing that you can do to work smart is recognize your task management approach or your order of operations. So you're going to have a list of things that need to be done, but how do you approach them? Because so often some of us will approach a task and be like, I want to do this task because that's what I really want to do, as opposed to what should be done versus what needs to be done versus, oh my goodness, it needs to be done now. So let's break this down. You have a big list of things to do. I tend to break them down into 3 categories. The first category is my need versus want list. Like, this needs to be done versus I want this to be done. I have a need category and then a want category. And more accurately, I put the need things on the top of my list and the want things at the bottom of my list. I need to make sure the message this week is in order so that we can deliver it. I want to have a fun illustration to go with the game. Do I need the illustration? No. It's what I want. I can probably do the whole message without the illustration. It would be much cooler with the illustration, but that's the point. I want it so that it's cooler for me, myself, and I. But then the second category is large versus small. So I'm going to break down what I have in my needs based on what is big and what is small. And I'm going to reorganize them so that the larger needs are at the top of the list, the smaller needs are in the middle of the list, and the same thing with my wants that are already on the bottom of the list. All right, I have larger wants and I have smaller wants. I want to replace that little spring thing behind the door that broke when the kids flicked it a million times. Don't need it, and it's a really small deal. So I'm going to put it pretty low in my list of things to do. So, review real quick on the whole orders of operations. Need versus want. Need goes on top of the list. Wants go on the bottom of the list. Then large on the top of the list. And small on the bottom. When I say large and small, I literally mean a larger task. This is going to take a larger amount of time, a larger amount of mental energy, a larger amount of effort, large in scale, large in size, large. You might be asking, well, why large first? Why can't we just beast out the small ones first? Well, that is a philosophy. You can do it that way. That is not wrong or right. I can tell you that it's already been practiced, and it's been proven that when you beast out the large items first, you can actually get more done. Let me repeat that. When you beast out the large items first, you can get more done, and probably more accurately said, more done sooner. So, because remember, we're talking about smart work, not necessarily hard work. You can do hard work. You're not going to get in trouble for it. But we got a lot to do before Sunday. We've got a lot to do before the game day. We got a lot to do before X, Y, and Z. And so I got to be efficient with my time, because not only is my time affected here at my work, it's affected, at home with my kids, with my wife. So I need to use my energy wisely. Smart work. Let me explain a little bit more with this whole large versus small. An exercise has been done. It's kind of like that marshmallow exercise where the kids are left with 2 marshmallows, and will they wait? And there's 20 million marshmallows. That whole kind of exercise. Well, in this exercise, they lined up several cones, and then exactly 10 cones, 2 lines. So 2 lines of cones makes 20 cones total, and then in each line there are 10 kids, right? And they're going to do a relay race. And the point of the race is is kid number 1 runs down, grabs a cone, comes back, sets it on its marker. Code number 2 grabs the second cone, sets it on a marker. Kid number 3 runs down, grabs code 3, sets it on the marker, and so on. Well, in the first line, the first kid went to the first cone that was closest, the easiest. And the second kid went to the second cone, the next cone, the next closest, the next easiest, and then so forth. And the 10th kid had to run the farthest to get the cone. Then on the other line, they did it backwards. The first kid went to the far cone. The second kid went to the second to the farthest cone, and then so on, so that the last kid, the 10th kid, grabbed the closest cone. They did this exercise again, except one difference. They still had 10 codes in each line, except now they only had one kid. One kid. In the first exercise where they had 10 kids, it was a pretty close tie, because everyone got one chance. But when they did it again with only one kid, this one kid in the first grouping went down, grabbed it one, grabbed the next closest, and they're getting tired. They're getting exhausted. You can see they're weaning down their energy, and by the end they grab that last cone and they run back. Well, in the second line, the kid was instructed to go to the farthest cone first and then work their way back. And as they were depleting their energy, they were walking less, using less energy, and the second grouping finished their relay race much faster than the first grouping. And so there was a lot to be learned from this exercise, in that it's efficient to do the harder things first. It's smart. And honestly, when you're thinking about like filling the jar with rocks, the illustration you've heard a million times. The large rocks go first. The smaller rocks go last. When you're doing work in other fields, typically you do the hard work first, and then you work around with the smaller things, because it's efficient for everyone's time. So the same principle applies to work from behind a desk. You're going to want your needs and wants categorized, and then put your larger items at the top of the list. Focus a lot of energy on that, and then go to your next smallest, your next smallest, your next smallest. So the end of your day, nothing but itty-bitty tasks that you're beasting out so you can get out. And then also, let's say your time is sucked by an unwanted guest or a surprise or an emergency or anything. Well, it's just a small item that you could really throw on to tomorrow's task or do real quick this evening, right? But let's go on to item number 3. Item number 3, because we said in the first one is speed of leadership. This one, the second one was task management, or also known as order of operations. And we broke down order of operations into needs versus wants, large versus small. And then now, the third element of this order of operations is urgent versus not so urgent. So we have reoccurring tasks, like every Wednesday night, there is a thing that I gotta do. Every Sunday morning, there's a thing I gotta do. And so you have your to-do list, but then there will be occasions where something is way more urgent than the others. Like, I need to get this in, otherwise it will be too late. So when you get to that point, if I don't do this, I'm going to be behind. If I don't do this, I'm going to get in trouble. If I don't do this, something will be wrong. Move that item to the top of the list, because you need it. It's big important, and more importantly, it is urgent. If it's not so urgent, keep it low on the list. Now, it might not always be urgent. Like the other day, I was doing my to-do list for a soccer league, and one of the items was to order the soccer jerseys. Not a big deal. I don't care. But then I went on a trip, was on an airplane, went to Ireland, and all of a sudden I was like, oh wait, I've got to order these by tomorrow. And this is the only time that I have Wi-Fi at this hotel, and I cannot wait until I get home in 10 days, because then by the time they get here, it'll be too late, and these kids will be without a shirt on the first game. So I put it at the top of my list, and I ordered them that night. Urgent. All right? So, number 1 was speed of leadership. Number 2, with its 3 categories, was task management. And so the third thing we can work on is something called ROI. Return on investment. Return on investment means if I put this much into something, what do I get out of it? What is my return to come out of it? So if I put energy into this event that's going to be on a Saturday night, and I bring out all these leaders, and then to come and find out that 20 kids came and all 20 gave their heart to Jesus, is that worth it? Yeah, it's worth it. That's why I did the event. Excellent, yeah. But then, like, when I'm super excited about this idea of getting a mascot. Ooh, I want to get a mascot, and it's going to cost this much, and it's going to come. It's going to take a lot of work, and then when it comes, and no kids get saved from it, no kids care, and you following, the return that I got from the mascot was very little, if nothing. I now need to consider what I'm doing and what I'm going to get out of it when I do it. Does that mean what I'm doing is a bad idea? No. But I might not want to spend too much time on mascot designing and mascot details when the Fall Fest is coming up, or the late nighters coming up, or the next mission trips for the kids is coming up, because one of these things have an internal value and the other doesn't. One of these things draws in more families to return to the church, and the other has nothing to do with return. One of these things meets the missional values, and the other doesn't. So as I'm walking through what I am doing, I'm considering, what is the return of my investment? What is the return on my investment? And yep, I do think it's important. That's a whole nother episode on how I think church is a ministry and a business. You can look that up in one of the previous episodes. I also talk about that a little bit in one of the previous episodes of this particular series. But return on investment, yes, is a business concept. It's super important. If you are a leader and you want to work smart, although we're not talking about money, we are talking about the return of what you put your time into, your energy into. So that matters. The fourth thing that you can do to improve your smart work is the idea of delegation. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I have a whole episode just on this. You can look it up. But I want to say that the one quote that I always say is that if anyone can do it, let them do it. But if only you should do it, then go do it. And I think too often us leaders want to do everything. We want an A-level work on every single thing that's happening. And we're afraid that if we share the work with other people, they're going to give us B-level work or C-level work. And the reality is other leadership books are telling us that if they can do it at 80%, even some books say 70%, let them do it. Greg Cashel in his podcast talked about this concept, that if they can do it at 70%, just let them do it so that you can do other things and everyone can get more accomplished. And if I'm frank, if you're in school and you're getting a D in some class, it's still a passing grade. That's less than 70%. Bottom line is, don't be that guy that's trying to do everything. All right, let's go to our fifth item. The fifth thing that you can do to up your smart work, your wisdom at work. First, we said speed of leadership. Secondly, we said task management. Third, we said return on investment. Fourth, we said delegation. And this last one is number 5, evaluation. After every event, activity, schmeal, talk, fundraiser, whatever it is that you do with kids, evaluate yourself. Evaluate the thing. Evaluate. It doesn't matter if you use the SWOT analogy or analysis. It doesn't matter if you use some other analysis or if you use the good old 1, 2, 3, which is what did I do good, what did I do bad, and how can I improve, right? Those are the three that I use for most of the basic things. If you want to go SWOT, that's SWOT, which all means something. You can do that. It doesn't matter. There's no right or wrong evaluation. But what I do think is weak sauce is if you do not evaluate yourself, because you're not going to know how to get better if you don't know where to get better at. And this works with your job. This works with coaching. This works as an athlete. This works in ministry. Evaluate yourself. So there it is. The 5 things I recommend in order for you to be smarter at work. We have speed of leadership, task management, return on investment, delegating, and evaluating. If you got questions, you know where to find me. We'll make it happen. We'll talk. We'll up your game so that you are more confident with kids, leading them into an overflowing life with Jesus. Because remember, these kids are going to one day grow up to become big kids, big people. And they're watching you. They're learning from you. And they need the best from you. And if you want to be better at what you do with kids, get better from behind the desk. Until next time, everybody say, bye, Pastor Juan. Thank you for listening. Smash those like buttons, turn the bells blue, or whatever the kids are doing these days. At the end of the day, our goal is to raise little people to one day become big people. You can find older archived podcasts on our YouTube channel and support what we do at RonGaleMinistries.com. Enjoy!